Hello, everybody. Good evening. Dear colleagues, dear friends, not just the people, just you. I have the honor to welcome you to the presentation of the Ellsberg Whistleblower Award 2026. Just shortly, my name is Michael Sontheimer. I'm a historian journalist, but also a member of the Curatorium of tazFUTURZWEI Foundation, and as such, I'm also a member of the executive board of the Ellsberg Whistleblower Award. I welcome you all on behalf of the tazFUTURZWEI Foundation, the Wau Holland Foundation, the Riva and David Logan Foundation, and the Whistleblowers Network. A special welcome to all the people who participated in the work of the jury and to set up this award. And a ceremony without music is not a proper ceremony. So luckily we have the Taz Choir or Taz Chor. The Taz Chor exists since 34 years now and will sing 2 songs now and 2 more in the middle of the ceremony. The first song we will sing is originally an instrumental by Johann Sebastian Bach called Aia aus der Orchestersuite 3, Bach-Werkverzeichnis und so weiter, also called Aia in G string, because in a it's a G string. The Taz Choir is conducted by Jared Cholon. Sorry, the second piece we are singing is a piece by Henry Purcell, English Baroque, end of the 17th century, and it's called If the Music Be the Food for Love. Well, please, Taz Choir, jump on the stage and we start.
Thank you very much, taz Choir. We have a very special situation tonight, which reminded me of the fact that we are not handing out a prize for an actor or a writer. Andrés Olarte is sadly not with us here tonight. So we have the strange situation of having an award presentation without the awardee. I'm supposed to say greetings to everyone. We will read his acceptance speech later. His body strikes. It was too much for him, and he's very sorry and sad, but he's very happy to accept the award. And we continue with our program. We will have a discussion. We will go deeper into the topic, what Andrés blew the whistle on, what the topic in Colombia is, and so on. And now I may welcome Annegret Falter, Whistleblower Netzwerk.
Muss ich was anstellen? Ach, Sie müssen. Ist noch nicht. Ich versuche es nochmal. Hört ihr mich? Alles gut? Okay. So. Dear Andrés Peña Olates, who isn't here, but still, I want to address him. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, dear members of the international jury. Welcome to the presentation of the International Ellsberg Whistleblower Award. But first of all, many thanks to the taz Choir and Michael. That was a wonderful prelude to this ceremony. With the award, the founding organizations want to honor whistleblowers and at the same time pay tribute to Daniel Ellsberg. The award was established in his memory and in the spirit of his legacy. Together we carry on Daniel's cause, which is also ours. It is important to understand that the International Ellsberg Award is directed at two simple goals: recognizing the challenges that whistleblowers face as a result of their acts, and the importance. Ist noch, ja? Bringen Sie mir ein Glas Wasser? Danke. And the importance, that's important, and the importance, is it okay? Good. And the importance of the revelation that they have made. Those are the words of Richard Logan, who was originally intended to open this event for us, but for unavoidable reasons cannot be here tonight. He sincerely wishes us every success. Ellsberg was the first and most important whistleblower of his time. By disclosing the top-secret McNamara report on US decision-making in the Vietnam War, in the Vietnam War, later publicly known as the Pentagon Papers, it was in 1971, he exposed the lies of at least 4 US governments. In doing so, he risked a life sentence. He was charged with 115 years. He was declared the most dangerous man in America by Nixon, by the Nixon administration, by Nixon himself. Yet his disclosure contributed to ending the Vietnam War and also resulted in a landmark Supreme Court decision for press freedom. His courage and the positive result for society motivated many whistleblowers who came after him, who were also persecuted and lost their jobs, their families, their freedom, or their country. E.g. Jeffrey Sterling, Thomas Drake, Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden, reality winner, and our last year's awardee, Dan Hale, not to forget. I see Andrés Olarte following in this tradition. He too was defamed, persecuted, lost his professional livelihood and his Colombian homeland. We are gathered here today to honor his courage in exposing grave crimes against the environment and Colombian society. With Andrés, we have chosen someone whose actions truly speak in concert with the spirit of Daniel Ellsberg, to deliver the truth into the sunlight in the public gaze. The award will be presented to individuals and organizations worldwide. They have disclosed information that significantly enhances free public or scientific discourse and strengthens the public's right to know. Their revelations will give the public and even parliamentarians the chance, at least the chance, so to say, to participate in debates and decision-making processes on key issues that often affect society as a whole: surveillance, war, etc. Transparency and truth are the livelihood of democracy, lifeblood, excuse me. The award is intended to show the world that a whistleblower can make a difference, that they can make an important contribution to peace and democracy, and that whistleblowers are often indispensable in holding power to account. They create transparency so that wrongdoing can be recognized and those responsible held accountable. Let me quote Richard Logan again. Civil discourse must be based on facts. When the truth is willfully hidden by powerful and vested interests, we, the people, must act resolutely to expose these practices. We honor people who have challenged power. Like Ellsberg himself, they have shown that there is a higher loyalty than that to one's employer or the state. Namely, loyalty to the highest values of society, first and foremost, peace, democracy, human rights, and environmental protection. By awarding the prize and publicly thanking the winner, we also want to encourage and motivate all those who are still facing this conflict of loyalty. We call on you. Follow your critical mind, your social responsibility, and your conscience. Ellsberg himself often publicly called for whistleblowing and was convinced of the motto of the American civil rights movement, "Courage is contagious." Therefore, let us all be infected by the courage of Andrés. The award represents a commitment for all of us. Whistleblowers make an invaluable contribution to our common good. In turn, whistleblowers need our support from civil society and namely NGOs and journalists. That is why prior to this award ceremony, we sat down with investigative journalists and representatives of NGOs and exchanged experiences about working with whistleblowers. Thomas Kastning, our project director, will later let us know more about it, some of the conclusions. This award is a joint effort. Today's event is hosted in cooperation with Reporters Without Borders. The award was initiated by the Riva and David Logan Foundation, the tazPUTURZWEI Foundation, the Wow Holland Foundation, and Whistleblower Network, of which I am the chair. It is supported by whistleblower and journalist organizations worldwide, e.g. as jury members or through nomination of candidates. I would like to take the opportunity to express my sincere thanks to all of you and to all of them. This award was imagined to highlight an individual for others to follow, an exemplar of courage and determination, inexorably driven to do the right thing for the right reasons. Today's award winner represents all those who have brought valuable information to light at extreme personal risk. We believe the other 4 individuals on our shortlist deserve special recognition and respect as well. Yiza Usman from Nigeria on corruption. Yuval Green from Israel and Anthony Aguilar, both on Gaza war crimes. Ephraim Yalikin Gonzu from the Central African Republic on Russian disinformation networks. Thank you all for your courage. Thank you for setting an example, and congrats to Andrés. I now look forward to the laudatory speech by Harald Welzer, Professor of Transformation Design and co-founder and director of the non-profit Futurzwei Foundation. Professor Welzer, the floor is yours. Das Glas habe ich kaum draufgetrunken.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Thank you for the introduction. I feel very honored to be invited to this event to give a laudatio to Andrés Olarte. And of course, it's kind of a strange situation to give a laudatio to a laudandor who's not here. Yeah, and maybe this has also something to do with the dialectics of whistleblowing and all kinds of civil resistance, because the crucial point, and Annika Falter already mentioned it, is that whistleblowers, or people who do kinds of resistance in a given societies, are not appreciated by this society. This is a very simple fact, yeah? And they don't have to expect glory and honor, but they have to expect something like contempt, like persecution, things like that. So it is a really dialectical thing, and Andrés had all these experiences of losing his job, of having difficulties to find another position, of having to leave his country, of having to readopt himself into a new situation, and all kinds of things. So for people who don't have this experience, as I, for example, it is very easy to glorify something like this. But for the people who do it and have to experience all these negative results of their own action, it is something very difficult. And I think this is extremely important to think about that, and I will make some remarks about this after I make a very brief report on what Andrés did, and I can do it because the panel discussion and also Alexander von Bismarck will go deeply into this special case, because this is the agency that worked with the data that Andrés provided and made further investigations and things like that. So the case was simply that Andrés is an environmental and energy advisor, and in this professional respect, he was hired by a company, by a Colombian company with a really dialectical name, Ecopetrol. Ecopetrol, and which is the largest company in this country, and is, as the name, the second part of the name says, engaged in fossil energies and all kinds of energy production and things like that. And companies who work in these fields have, of course, always the problem that they destroy the environment. And they have to be careful not to destroy it too much and things like that. And Andrés was the advisor to the CEO of this company and also the advisor to the vice president for sustainability. of this company. And in this function, he was confronted, of course, with certain cases of environmental pollution, but not only of the factual thing, but also of the fact that the people who were suffering from these environmental problems were really something that motivated him to do something against it. That means to go into certain cases that were registered in this company, and he found the fact that there were more than 800 cases of problems with oil pollutions in sensible environmental areas. And the even more crucial thing was that only around about 600 or something of these cases were officially reported, and 1/5 of all the cases were things that only the company knew and nobody else. And this was combined with the situation of the suffering people, something that made him go deeper into these things, made him to collect data about all these cases, make him store these data, and thinking about what to do with it. And the end of the story is that he lost his job. The contract was not prolonged because there was kind of rumor about that he did things that were not really good in the eyes of the company, and that he was also threatened by strange calls on the telephone and things like that, and the situation in the country became more and more problematic even after he had to leave the company. So this is very briefly the situation. The whole case is about systemic illegal activities of a huge company with really severe impact on the environment and on the people of Colombia. This is something. And there's a documentary done by BBC last year. It was published, which is very interesting. I recommend to see it. And there's this complete investigation by what Alexander will also mention. So this is what Andrés did. And my professional work as a social psychologist had also something to do not with whistleblowers, but with people who expose deviant behavior under repressive circumstances, which means, for example, helpers and rescuers of Jews during National Socialism, things like that. And when we did studies about that, there were many very interesting points that I want to mention here in this laudatory speech, and they are all difficult things. Because normally we have this idea, and people learn that at school, especially in Holocaust education under the framework of Nie wieder, that it was something really necessary and honorable to help people, to rescue people, to do things like that. And what is completely neglected in this image of rescuers and helpers and also of whistleblowers is that these people, under the given contemporary circumstances and also under the actual circumstances, are not conform acting people, but they are deviant people. And this is not appreciated by the rest of the society. So when we now, like, for example, Margot Friedländer or others, are heroes in this country and imagined as really, really heroic persons, as people who have been rescued, and also the helpers like Oskar Schindler or so are communicated and designed in public communication as people who did really good things. But in a contemporary perspective, we had a social situation where like 90% of the people of a given society would have thought these are Volksschädlinge, these are criminals, these are deviant people. So we mistake, if we have, you know, a kind of picture of an image of these people, that they do something under historical given conditions that would have been appreciated by most of the normal and ordinary people. This is completely wrong. And I say this because it makes it even more difficult for people to decide to help others or to behave resistant or to become a whistleblower, because everybody, as a member of a given society, knows that this is deviant behavior and not affirmative, conform behavior. And this is really important to understand, because from my point of view, and we investigated many, many of these cases, people who do things like that don't act under a kind of a romantic, universal moral conviction. They are not good people, but they have some kind of a feeling that there's something going wrong, and it is their specific responsibility to do something about it. But this point is really important, because kids are taught that it is about universalistic responsibility. It's about universalistic morality, and that it's really easy to have something like this because we all learned this. For example, this should never happen again, that everybody should be encouraged and brave, and it will be appreciated by everybody else. But this is not the case. It's simply not the case. And what cases like Andrés' case can teach us, and many, many other cases of people who were under very severe danger, under very problematic conditions, professionally working on types of resistance of this kind, what we can learn is that they didn't follow necessarily universalistic moral convictions, but they would follow particular moralistic convictions and responsibilities. And I think this is a really important point. If you see Andrés in the specific situation as a young engineer in a very important company with a career in front of him, something to achieve, and then being confronted with something that he individually thought, this is not possible, this is a crime. This has also a dimension where you cannot say, okay, this is just one case. All the other things that these companies do are quite okay. I can cope with it, or whatever you can think in a situation like this. He was, in this particular manner, responsible. Yeah? Independently of all other political, moralistic, religious, or whatever ideas he had. But there was a specific thing that he would have said, this is not possible to tolerate this. Yeah? And then it's another thing. If you want to do something like this, to help persecuted people, or to open up a public discussion about criminal activities of countries or of companies and things like that, you have to know how to do it. Yeah, we have, especially in the case of Holocaust helpers and rescuers, romantic images of good people who would easily go into the situations, especially searching for people who can be rescued and things like that. And this is a complete wrong picture, because people who did this, we had here in Berlin and in other cities, networks of helpers, of helping people. Why networks? Because you need many, many qualifications. to help people under totalitarian and repressive and oppressive conditions. You need people who have flats, who have places where people can be covered. You need people who can fake documents and all these things. And you have to know others who can do things that you can address to help them, which also means that people become helpers and rescuers who had not ever had the idea to do something like this. But they become involved in the situation because they can professionally help and are asked. It's because of social responsibilities and things like that. So, and this is quite interesting because it is not very good if people try to help or be resistant or do kind of investigations if they don't know how to do it, because then they are very much more in danger for themselves, as they are anyway. And the other thing is that they are also bringing people in danger that they want to help or to be rescued. But the thing is that in a theoretical perspective, the really important thing is that we cannot rely on moral convictions on a universalistic level. What we have to teach, and where these cases like Andrés is representing is so very important, is that we have to learn that particular responsibility is the most important thing, because this requires exact interpretation of the situation, an exact interpretation of the resources you have, what you can do with it, and also ideas who can be integrated in the whole process. So it's a professional thing, and it is something where the scope of what you can do is exactly defined. It's not about saving the world or killing capitalism or whatever, yeah? Saving the environment. It's about a precise estimation of what my particular responsibility is and what I can do to fulfill this responsibility. This is, in one, if we turn it into teaching strategies, in one respect, it's much easier than this big thing, nie wieder. On the other hand, in a concrete situation, it is very difficult, because maybe many people have this impulse and think, oh, this is not okay, what is going on here. But the most problematic thing under oppressive, repressive conditions is that we all, and so most of the people that are existing, have good reasons not to do anything. Yeah, this is the greatest problem. People always have reasons. Yeah, they have to pay their rent, they have kids at home, they have their old grandma, and whatever. Yeah, and this is the reason, and this is very simple, that the probability that people won't follow their impulse, their moral impulse, that this probability is much higher than the probability that people would do something like Andrés did. Okay? And I think this occasion to give a laudatio to somebody who's not here goes directly into these dialectics, because it's really not easy to continue your life after you have something done like this and experience the consequences of this. Therefore, maybe this day, this award-giving day today, is an occasion to have a more difficult, complicated reflection about what it requires to do something like this, and also a more difficult and scrupulous reflection about teaching or establishing norms about what people should do and whatever. And I think the most important thing, this is something I have learned out of my research, that is absolutely necessary never to trust your own convictions that you have in a certain time, in a given time, because with changing norms in societies, people they attend to change their moral convictions, their perceptions of reality and things like that. We have seen this, especially in Germany, in these years between 1933 and 1941. I can't go deeply into it, but this is a very important thing where you can see that quite ordinary people who would perceive themselves as part of a modern Western society with a big background in education, in literature, in philosophy, and things like that, would within very few years find it completely acceptable and normal that people are persecuted and deported and killed. Okay? And this is for social psychologists a really, really, really frightening example, because here you can see that the probability that people try to think and say and act like everybody else thinks and says and acts is so great, because we are oriented always in what the others do. And therefore, the deviant behavior of the few people, and there are always really few people, yeah? Whistleblowing is not something like a mass movement. Is really something where we should really think serious about it. And also, and therefore it's a pity that Andrés is not here, therefore investigate or interpret and find out what the possibilities of broaden such a behavior that follows particular morality. I think this is really a big task for all kinds of history education and political education, not something like a very for free blah blah about nie wieder and things like that, because it's very easy to agree with it, but this doesn't say anything about what people would do in an actual concrete situation. So my last words would have been to Andrés, as he is not here. This is what I wanted to say. And I will talk to him, of course, afterwards, maybe tomorrow or the other day. We just talked yesterday to each other, and therefore the situation is like the situation is, and we cannot go deeply into the psychological pressure that such an act that he did and that we celebrate here and where he's awarded for, what that means. So it's not, I mean, is it an occasion to have something like a celebration, or is it more an occasion to have a reflection about it? I find it really difficult in this situation. But anyway, I'm the Laudator and I'm finished. Thank you very much.
Ja, du gehst erstmal da hoch. Isaac from the Holland Foundation. We have champagne, I think, is it? And there's flowers, but like the most important thing comes here. And we have a very close friend of Andrés here tonight who will take the award instead of him. If you may come up here. Or both of you if you want to. Yeah. Daniel and Andreas, thank you very much for taking the award.
Dear Andrés Olarte Peña, I hope that you are listening this show, which is being recorded and also streamed. And I have the honor to present the statue that goes with the prize.
If you ever get it out of
If I get it out. So it makes noise, obviously. I think this cannot be recorded right now, but I can read it. Oops. Difficult. So, Ellsberg Whistleblower Award 2026, Andrés Olarte Peña. And I heard that you are close friends with him, and so therefore I want to present this.
Thank you very much.
I think there's a few like that.
Just too late.
I have been participating in the workshops this afternoon, and what became clear to me is that, I mean, besides the statue, he also will receive 10,000 euros. Well, 10,000 euros may seem a lot, but if we look at the personal loss that he went into by doing the whistleblowing, I mean, he had probably a professional career of at least 30 or 40 years in front of him, so add up all the salaries he would have earned. And now he is in deep shit. He is no longer in his home country. He has to learn German. And he has, yeah, which is not easy either. And also, he is looking for a new job. But there are clear indications that he is on some type of blacklist, and so he better not look for jobs in big corporations, but maybe in small corporations which are owner-owned and who appreciate perhaps what he has done. So that's what I wanted to add to presenting the statue. And in addition to the statue,
Okay, my name is not Andreas or Anas, and I'm a friend of Andres, like Daniel is a friend, and Andres is deeply honored by this award. Unfortunately, he's not able to be here with us this evening because of the personal consequences of what he had been through. He asked us to convey his sincere gratitude and respect to everyone present, and thank you so much. It has been a real honor to receiving the Ellsberg Award on behalf of Andres, and you could say we have to be two to carry the burden. But on the other hand, you say that's what friends are for. And every time I've heard that is what friends are for, to receive whistleblower awards if you're not able to be here by yourself. But we will go and pass it to him in person and the flowers. And this is a wonderful reward. And thank you so much on behalf of Andres.
It is a great honor to be able to read this speech on behalf of Andres. Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. Many of you received, like that? Closer? All right. I'll start one more time for Andres' sake. Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. Many of you received a personal invitation from me. If you did, it was intentional. Each of you played some role in the long road that brought me to this chair tonight. But I want to start by saying something clearly. This pedestal is mine. I earned it. The alternative to this moment was not a ceremony like this. The alternative was complete defeat, and we would not have shared that either. So no, this pedestal is not shared. But the road that brought me here carries the footprints of many of you. For that, I am grateful. People expect whistleblowers to give political speeches, manifestos, denunciations, calls for action. Tonight, I may disappoint those expectations because this process has made me a bit cynical, not nihilistic, but realistic. I already did my part. And one thing I know with certainty, when I die one day, I will die peacefully. Because unlike many people, I already gave my piece to the world. The uncomfortable question is, have you? Since 2019, when I had to leave Colombia in exile, myself in Germany, after exposing wrongdoing at Ecopetrol, people have asked me the same question again and again. Why did you do it? For a long time, I had no answer. Until one day, in the most Berlin way possible, I found it in a gay bar conversation. A friend said something surprisingly wise. Why does a dog lick his balls? Because he can. And suddenly it made sense. Why did I do it? Because I could. Because it felt right. But the real question is not why I did it. The real question is why I could, because not everyone can. At some point, I smelled something that clearly smelled like shit. And I had the privilege not only to point at it, but to study it under the microscope, following the example of my father. My father is a bacteriologist. A man who spent his life studying microorganisms. Thanks to that work, he paid for the education of his children and gave us a privileged life. But the truth is, I did not do this because I am special. I did it because of the people around me. It takes a village. My father planted strong values in me: honesty, curiosity, the habit of asking why when something doesn't make sense. My sister crossed an ocean to help rebuild my life. And I had a second mother, Teresa Salazar. She taught me something simple: defend the weak, speak up when something is unjust, do not stay silent. This road has been very hard, and it brought out ugly parts of me. For a long time, it felt like shouting into the void. So I thank all the people who showed me kindness when I was broken. My doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, the German healthcare system, and Germany, my new nation. I never imagined living here, but somehow I found a home. Berlin is a strange city, full of wonderful people, often hidden behind a hard shell. And strangely, that was exactly what I needed. And in the middle of all this, something unexpected happened. I met the love of my life, Gerald. He believed me simply out of kindness. For years, he lived with the worst version of me, and loving that version taught me something important: what real love looks like. Before I finish, I want to say one more thing. We live in a moment where the world pushes us towards nihilism. Turn on the TV for 5 minutes, war, crisis, authoritarianism, disaster. My advice sometimes is simple: turn off the fucking TV. There is always something you can do, maybe not change the world, but change something. In your neighborhood, at work, for someone next to you. There are far more good people than bad ones. They are just quieter. And maybe we should bring back a bit of the spirit of the 1970s. After hard times, people danced, celebrated, loved. Make love, not war. Thank you.
So, noch zwei kleine Lieder. Zum einen ein Lied namens Birds of Passage. Wir wissen nicht so genau, wo das herkommt. Das hat ein Mitglied unseres Chores, die ein paar Jahre in England ist, irgendwo aufgetrieben, die Noten, und uns zur Verfügung gestellt. Ist aber contemporary, also kein Renaissance oder Barock. Und dann als zweites ein Song For the Longest Time, das ist möglicherweise bekannt, geschrieben und aufgenommen von Billy Joel in 1983.
Great, thank you. Danke. Thank you. On here it says, Andrés, what a speech. How do you feel? But I can say the same thing, what a speech. Thank you very much for holding that.
Thank you, Andrés.
Sorry, Andrés. The speech was held by Alexander von Bismarck. I call you Sasha on here on stage, that's fine.
Yeah, please.
He is Executive Director of the Environmental Investigation Agency, short EIA, which has been conducting the extensive investigations around the material of Andrés, conducted a long report, 60 pages long, called Crude Lies on the Ecopetrol case. As well, you uploaded the whole data set, or more or less the whole data set, called Iguana Papers, with thousands of documents in there. If any journalists are present, everybody has the feeling there has been a lot of work on it, but there is still potential in there. First question, is it the whole set of documents, Iguana Papers? Is it like 100%?
Yes, that's it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so. I'd have to ask my team, actually, if there was anything left out for any reason, but my understanding is that it's all there.
I already had that picture on here. So this is Rio Magdalena in Colombia. It's a bit longer than the Rhine, the German-Swiss river. But despite other than the Rhine, it's like you see swampland, huge huge ecosystems behind it, lots of animals and people relying on it, millions of people living alongside its shores, relying on the water, relying on the fishing. Would you eat fish from the river?
No.
No. Micro.
Sorry, use that now. No, I don't think we would. We saw the results of the independent researchers that explained to us what the risks were, and it's particularly brutal because it's so long term and so difficult to fix. The side products of producing oil like that includes the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which break down into pretty horrific subcomponents that can be extremely cancer-causing. Along with that come the heavy metals that particularly are associated with birth defects that were specifically seen also in the hospitals in the region that we sort of collected the evidence from. I mean, I grew up on a river where I was fishing and it said, you can't eat the fish because it has mercury in it, and that was from a paint factory from 60 years earlier. And you can't really get that stuff out. So the long-term crime that is happening is particularly difficult to take.
Nevertheless, we all rely on it, right? I mean, nobody can live without petrol, gas, and so on. So what is your biggest takes from the investigation you made? Can you sum it up so we know what we're talking about?
Sure. We received the message from Andrés by email, and we receive a lot of emails, many of which are traps for us to click on something, and then they attack our data. So we had to analyze it sort of carefully, and there were just some members on the team that had a sense that both understanding it was actually Andrés and then looking at the substance in there, they said, this is really something that we have never seen before. We've done this work for 40 years. Our work is to investigate all kinds of environmental crime around the world, to work with all kinds of different sources in difficult places in the world against big companies in the world. We've never seen anything like the data set that Andrés brought us. It included 300,000 specific instances of, in our view, illegalities by that company. And it was basically in three buckets for me. One was the poisoning of the water, the poisoning of an ecosystem that was particularly important to Andrés because it is linked to his hometown. And again, it is so permanent, and you did a good job describing how important that ecosystem is. Then came the emissions, the climate emissions that were being conducted illegally by this company that was venting methane, which was now explicitly illegal since 2022. We proved that it was actually happening since then. So you have the crime against the local environment, and you have the crime against the global environment. And then the third big tranche of intelligence concerned a really systematic surveillance system that this company, the biggest company in the country, that one of the top 10 national oil companies in the world, had set up to surveil about 1,200 humans. And these were not radicals that were attacking their infrastructure or something like that, which is probably what the company would argue. These were civil society members, these were religious leaders, as per the documents that Andrés brought us. And this included a very sophisticated sort of Palantir-type form of surveillance with a constant monitoring of the social media being used by all of these people. And this now is in the context, of course, of the extraordinary violence and threats that is happening in those communities.
Yeah, can you say a few words on that? Colombia and the history, where we're coming from? I mean, it's not Germany.
Yeah, it's been consistently had the highest deaths of environmental defenders over the years. This surveillance system by the company and the fact that the company pays between 10 and 20 million a year to security services in Colombia comes together with the fact, and this is one thing that we were able to show by doing a lot of interviews on the ground and add to Andrés' evidence in that way, that individuals said, we are being threatened by the cartels and the paramilitaries, and all that we are doing, we're not demonstrating against cartels and paramilitaries, we are concerned about this company, Ecopetrol. But the threats were coming from those paramilitary groups, and they were written and verbal threats and physical threats. That was the reality when we went on the ground.
When exactly did you receive Andrés' email? Which year was that?
I'm not exactly sure. Not exactly sure.
And
I
then,
think it was
if you
21.
describe a bit the process after receiving that email, and then how did the contact evolve?
Yeah. We, the team really thought that this was an extraordinary find, but then the question is, why hadn't it already been picked up, really, by the media, or had any particular reaction? And so we spent a lot of time with Andrés and our team thinking about that, and thinking about how to find some way to create impact, to have the, hopefully, information do what, the whistleblower wants it to do, what Andrés wants it to do, and keep him safe. And we thought, as in many cases like this, that one method would be to really go on the ground and try to prove those three core messages with new sources, with additional information. And so for the first one, for the poisoning of the water, we hired independent researchers from the Cartagena University that showed the elevations being so high that they posed a serious threat to humans and to wildlife. Then for the emissions, we brought new technology on the ground. So, Andrés had all the documents, extraordinary documents and conversations that showed that the company knew that they were basically illegally emitting methane. What we brought to that is new technology and cameras that could see those emissions actually coming out of the stacks, because they are otherwise, methane is invisible otherwise. And then third, for the surveillance system, we were able to have so many additional interviews that really filled out that story. And I think that then the combination of the data plus that additional work brought it sort of over the edge, where, and maybe with a lot of contacts and other things that we could bring to it, made it into really an extraordinary story by the BBC.
Was it ever an option to keep Andrés' name out of your report and your reporting?
It always is. It was a particular circumstance because he had already tried to and released in some form the information, but it just wasn't taken up. So that played a role. But most importantly, it was just a continuing discussion, as I think it always has to be with a whistleblower, and a continuing analysis of what makes the situation safer. You don't want to be in a situation that we are in as an organization, that you encourage any whistleblower to take more risk. You want less risk, and you hopefully want more impact. And in this case, the analysis was, Andrés' analysis and ours, that in the at least medium and long term, that the safety situation would benefit from the type of release that we all did together.
He would, I understand that right, he would benefit from you releasing the information, because then everybody knows his name is attached to it, but everybody knows all information is out, right? That's what I get.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
there is no benefit of, I don't know, I don't want to speak the words, but like silence him in some form.
Yeah, the information is out. You can always, have reprisals when information is out, but in this case, I think it's helpful that information is out from a lot of different sources, that it's going to continue to be out. The Iguana Papers is kind of platform that is for everybody. It's a whole ecosystem that will be used by other reporters, is out and can't be taken down. The fact that both my organization, EIA, and the BBC contributed to the investigations, brought new information to it, distributed the focus of who the target really is, you know, if anybody has those ideas. And so all of that together developed the strategy.
We see that picture here of that BBC documentary, out of that. And we have, if I look to Peter back there, is Owen Pinnell in the stream? Isn't he? Oh, all right. He's listening, so he should be in the stream. Well, we get back to that in 2 minutes. Could you tell me if he joins? Thank you. You said earlier on that Colombia is one of the most difficult places in the world for environmental activists. I think there's the statistics from
Global Witness.
Global Witness, right? Also, I read online that today you find Colombian ex-soldiers working now in Ukraine, in Sudan. Did you ever feel this presence while doing your research of threat or of danger for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I wish Andrés was here to talk about the continuing danger he felt and the danger that right now his friends feel. We had a tiny sliver of being there in doing this investigation, and but as a testament to your point, immediately felt it. The one anecdote that my team told me, I was not on the ground, was that they were doing water sampling, and they were confronted by a man who had a worker's sort of vest outfit on, who yelled at them that people get killed for doing what you're doing. And then within a few moments, extraordinarily, that same individual was the one that had removed that vest, and we then observed him taking signatures, going door to door in the neighborhood, and taking signatures, which we later found out was getting homeowners to sign a document that said they would move out because there was a concern over leaks and explosions and water pollution. So just, you know, within minutes, the combination of what appeared to be a pretty direct threat with the actual execution of that kind of leverage was extraordinary to see.
Thanks, Owen. Owen Pinnell? Pinnell, is that right?
Pinnell, yes.
Pinnell. From the BBC, he is director and producer of that documentary. We saw that picture out. Documentary is called Exposing the Toxic Record of Colombia's Oil Giant, in which Andrés is also featured repeatedly. For those who haven't seen it yet, highly recommended. It's part of a series, right, called Life at 50 Degrees?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. It's, so it's an environmental series that we worked on that looks at water crisis. So it's looking at pollution and other issues affecting the water around the world. Colombia is one of the countries. We also looked at South Sudan, Australia, and Syria as part of the series.
I don't know if you listened earlier on in the stream. We just spoke before you came online about feeling the presence of armed forces while working in Colombia. How did you experience that?
Yeah, I mean, it was very difficult to film in the area where Ecopetrol is based. The city of Barrancabermeja is notorious for violence between illegal armed groups and has been entangled in the armed conflict. In the past, it was a stronghold for guerrilla groups, and in response, there was actually a massacre by paramilitary groups in the 90s who rounded up civilians and actually disappeared many of them, who they accused of supporting the guerrillas. And then in recent years, new evidence has actually come to light that the Colombian army and Ecopetrol were involved in supporting those paramilitary groups, with former paramilitary leaders claiming they were paid by the company in the form of oil money. Ecopetrol, of course, deny all the allegations and say that they're actually a victim of the armed conflict. The situation did improve somewhat in recent years in Barrancabermeja, but again, there's been a deterioration on the ground with a rise in homicides linked to these armed groups. And I was able to see firsthand how it was affecting the work of local environmentalists in the area, many of whom have received death threats. Like one, for example, was Julie Velasquez, who's the leader of the fishing union. Like Andrés, she's received these threats, and she's also, like Andrés, spoken out against Ecopetrol and raised the alarm about pollution causing the deaths of fish and other marine life in the precious Magdalena River. And there's just this constant feeling of being watched. While we were filming with Julie, we were circled by two men on unmarked motorbikes who were armed. Weeks before, Julie's house was vandalized with graffiti on the wall, ordering her to get out, and gunshots were fired over her roof. All of this meant we had to move really cautiously and keep a low profile. And we were guided in doing this by a brilliant Colombian journalist, Christian, who guided us through some really difficult situations. One memory that comes to mind is when we used a drone filming some of Ecopetrol's sites. We were actually approached by several men who were wearing plain clothes who threatened us and ordered us to destroy the footage and leave the city. And at other times we were followed by vehicles without number plates and blacked out windows. It's worth me saying, though, that Ecopetrol denies any connection to these incidents. And the city is, a stronghold of armed groups.
Yeah. When we had contact before, and I also listened to that podcast with you, Colombia Calling, I had the feeling that you know tons of Andrés' story and background, far more than I would think you would need to produce that documentary. Is that right? Is it something that you personally touch or being touched as well by, or?
Yeah, it was I really got to know Andrés. We spent a good couple of days together, and also had many phone calls and email exchanges together. And, I feel really, grateful for the amount of time that he gave to me and to our team in, not only giving us the evidence, but kind of going into the background of everything that he discovered and really kind of understanding his motivations. It's, one thing to share evidence, but it's another to speak on camera, delving into the deepest and darkest corners of an experience working in a company that was, in his own words, a very toxic environment. It was an immense effort making this documentary, going up against a company on the scale of Ecopetrol, with their army of lawyers and PR people. And, a lot of the time it was just me and my executive producer, Monica Ganzi, who were kind of going through this evidence. But the thing that we realized is that, everything that Andrés had given us really checked out and was completely bulletproof. And, he gave us that time to kind of delve into all of it and to scrutinize it all. At times it felt like an impossible battle. Such was the impenetrable wall of defense that the company put up. And that was just, I guess, a small insight into what it must have been like for him. Except for him, he was fighting for many more years and fighting the battle alone without any institutional support. I just can't imagine the immense psychological strain that would put you under. So I'm just so glad that he's now being recognized for his bravery, for his incredible act of selflessness in bringing these truths to light.
Thank you, Owen. I would love to open the floor, not too long. Everybody's longing for a drink at the bar, but at least maybe 2 or 3 questions from the audience. Are there any questions? If not, we continue a couple of minutes and then we close. That's okay. Yes, microphone is coming to you.
Thank you. I was wondering, you started to talk about why the story wasn't picked up by other news media. Could you share why you think that didn't happen?
Is that for me, or does the BBC want to take that? Your sense of why? Yeah, I mean, I think I described how we tried to add to the total picture, but particularly to take pressure off of Andrés, as we said, and I think, look, it was of course, extraordinary amount of data that is difficult to go through and make a story out of, and the BBC would have done that. I think we sped it along by diving in it and spending a lot of time. I was trying to figure out when that email came, because I know there was a lot of time that we worked on that data to understand what the story was, or at least what a story of all that data was that made sense. I think that was a contribution that maybe helped, but I think you'd have better insights.
Yeah, I mean, I think what the EIA did to kind of ground truth a lot of what Andrés did and said was immensely helpful for us, you know, making the documentary. It's definitely, you know, I think the thing is that, you know, there's been a story there for a long time that Colombia has an issue with oil pollution, but it sometimes takes an individual like Andrés to kind of come out with an immensely impressive set of data like this to actually kind of bring the urgency to light. You know, environmental stories can be hard to tell because you know, there's so much to cover. There's pollution in so many different parts of the world, but I think what Andrés did was just show something that was absolutely urgent to kind of uncover and bring to light, you know, on a bigger scale, because we needed the accountability element. You know, it's clear that the authorities weren't holding the company to account for what it was doing, and you know, that meant that we felt obliged really to step in and to kind of make this investigation.
Did that answer your question, or were you aiming at Colombian media?
Well, any media, really. I mean, I tried to find reporting of this in Colombian newspapers. I couldn't find anything. But it sounded like maybe the story, did he share it with other news media before you, and then they rejected it for some reason?
Sorry. Do you want to go ahead, Sasha?
Oh, well, Sasha goes, I think.
Andrés would have to be here to say exactly who he gave it to and how. He released the information in various ways. I think he was focused on authorities, to be fair, you know, rather than the media, and then came to us. I think even as the story was clear, I think maybe what you were pointing to, there continued to be extraordinary inertia and resistance to telling the story locally, you know, where the pressure is real. And so that's something you can't get around, and I think that speaks to the fact that we are all, I mean, my organization is going to try to contribute by staying stuck in this fight. But we, of course, are feeling that shield that you mentioned, that Andrés must have felt extraordinarily and still feels, but I think the hope is that we have multiple players that can take some of that on. We have not broken it locally. We have some levers we're trying to add to this fight, but we got to add a bunch more. We have a case in the United States. It's a publicly traded company. We have in a few months representatives in Colombia supposed to be holding a commission to look at it. So there are all these Baustellen, these areas where we hope things are going to be built. But it's going to be a long fight because it's such a big power locally.
Is it maybe also a bit because to many people in Colombia it wasn't big news what has been revealed because everybody knows it more or less anyway?
I mean, we saw the resistance of all the outlets to telling it, and it wasn't because it wasn't news. Yes, everybody knows it's happening, but it's not being told in the news. And there's a big difference, and I think the population and everybody fighting the fight appreciates that difference.
Owen?
Yeah, I just wanted to read out what the top comment on the YouTube video is for the documentary, which is actually from a Colombian journalist called Daniel. He says, "As a Colombian journalist, thank you for showing this to the world. Some of us have been trying to report this, but the authorities just turn their gaze and nothing happens." And then someone else, another top comment says, "This documentary has been quietly censored in Colombia. No news, nothing about it." So it does show that certainly there's a resistance to reporting on Ecopetrol's activities within the Colombian media sphere. And I think that's one reason why we as BBC World Service felt we should pick this up and tell the story.
Another question? Yes, I think that hand was first, and then we get you. And then we wrap it up. Back there in the corner.
Hello, yeah. I'm interested to know, like, for so many years, I mean, we know there are thousands of environmental activists just alone in Latin America, and very openly wanted to report on different kinds of illegal activities happening in these countries. And I kind of wonder also not to minimize the efforts that Andrés himself did, but also why this specific situation attracted so much attention to actually do the work that should have been already been done before in all these other different cases of activism happening in Latin America. So just wondering what maybe he did that kind of helped into bringing people actually paying attention on these kind of issues.
I mean, there is an amazing culture of activism in Latin America that my organization is constantly learning from. We don't have a lot to teach. And I think there are a lot of stories being told. I think this was an extraordinary one in terms of the power and the violence and the specificity of the evidence, the potential for the clear illegalities that still need to find justice. We do a lot of that work. We're in the Amazon working with indigenous people to bring evidence of illegal logging out and illegal mining. And I mean, to take on the company that, in this sense, rules your country as an individual with overwhelming evidence of 300,000 individual, infractions. It is an extraordinary story and an extraordinary act of heroism.
And then can we have the microphone first row?
Yeah, thank you so much for everything we hear from you. I would like to ask you whether you have an opinion about the, let's say, kind of movement to give special rights to rivers, to environment issues. Is that something that you think it's just a romantic idea, or do you think that makes sense from your perspective of, picking up the theme of research in special environments?
It's such an interesting question. I mean, to pick up on Andrés' speech where he says, I've become maybe more of a realist, he said, not a nihilist, but a realist. And so maybe one could see that as going against wanting to be a romantic. But as I was rereading, as we went through it, it's very interesting that in terms of the legalities that matter right here for this evidence, there was a mechanism in Colombian law where if the Court of Human Rights has concepts in it that appear not to be implemented properly in Colombian law, then the Colombian law can open itself up to that and maybe reinterpret. And it's quite surprising for a country to allow maybe highfalutin concepts maybe that were developed outside of the realities of the confines of national pressures, of national influence of giant oil companies. You could see that when they wrote the Constitution of Colombia, that there was something in that of the idealism that can still have a practical hook to fight for justice. So we have been trained to become very sometimes beaten down realists, but I think there's something to it, and I think one should make the case, and if people take it up, it will give you something to grab onto, and we just need a bunch of stuff to grab onto.
I think we come to an end at this point. Is it okay? You have final remarks, Owen?
I just wanted to say I hope that, though it must have felt to Andrés like he was acting alone, what I realized, filming is that he was part of a much bigger network, as we talked about, those amazing environmental defenders in Colombia who, like him, are on the front line of fighting environmental crimes and abuses. And it was a huge vindication for all of those people who have been putting their lives on the line to highlight the devastating effects of pollution in rivers and ecosystems. For someone with Andrés' knowledge and position within a company like Ecopetrol to speak out meant so much and was so vindicating. And, all of the voices we've received since the documentary came out was, people thanking him for his bravery and getting this information out that would have otherwise been buried forever. So I hope he knows how much that has meant to so many people.
Thank you. My final remarks. One thing I just want to correct. I think Klaus said earlier on that Andrés is currently unemployed. I think that's not completely true. I think he is in a job in Berlin. Nevertheless, the point Klaus made is very true that many whistleblowers have problems afterwards in applying, in finding jobs, especially with big companies who do background checks. So if any employers are present, I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you as well, if you want to contribute, you can make that by donating, for example, to the Ellsberg Whistleblower Award. We have a homepage, very easy to find. We also rely on donations, so if you want to support us, events like this, a course, it's tax deductible in Germany. And even more important, of our job, no, at least the same importance of our job as honoring an individual and supporting the cause of whistleblowing through an individual is also giving a platform for networking and connecting. We did this today in the afternoon with journalists from Berlin and all around the world, from Zeit and Spiegel, taz. We had a very productive and good afternoon. Thank you very much as well for your contribution there. thank you, Owen Pinnell, who would have loved to be here as well, I think. He just couldn't board the flight yesterday because of some illness. And nevertheless, or no, the other way around. The even more, I thank you for taking the time now to come online. And
Thank you.
networking means drinks and snacks at the bar right now.
Danke.